Morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Morning, Harriet.
So,
Morning.
Good morning.
it's a rainy day out there, but everything's turning green, and
Sure
starting.
is.
We really needed that rain, don't you agree? I
Oh,
think
yeah.
we did. Our guest this morning is Jamie Houston.
Sure if anybody does.
Jamie and I go back a long way, at least 30 years, I think. And Jamie, I think when I think of Jamie, I think of a few things. One, a trip to Communities in Bloom that was just hilarious.
That's me, and that's my.
About 25 years ago. And he is, I call him the architect of the North Bay's waterfront.
on the back. No, I didn't.
Also the architect of the Cape Paceway and the Kinsman Trail. Or is it called the Trans-Canada Trail now? I don't even know. All the way to Callander.
That's
And many other things. He was a director of Parks and Leisure. And Jamie has this quiet way of just flying under the radar and getting things done. And I'm very grateful every time I walk on the path or, oops, I gotta mute you, John. Every time I go to on the Eco Path or the Cape Paceway, I think of Jamie and what a treasure that is to us, and including the waterfront. So he's been in all of those areas and more. So what I thought I'd do today, I'm going to share a screen and show a couple of videos at the waterfront. And what I'd like you to do is to pretend that you don't live in North Bay. Okay? You live someplace else. Where would that be if you could live someplace else? Ready? Hopefully I can do this. All right.
Harriet.
Hello?
Harriet.
Yes?
I help down at the gardens during the summer, and every summer a lady comes by who is from Arizona, and she comes down to the waterfront, she said, every summer to look at our gardens.
Yeah. That's lovely, eh? Can you see my screen now? So this is the first video I'm going to show you. So remember, you don't live in North Bay anymore. Just a minute. Gotta start from the beginning. Here we go. Unknown artist, I don't know who this is, North Bay's waterfront. What a beautiful place this is. Where is this?
I've become so numb, I can feel you there. Become so tired, so much more where I'm becoming. This all I want to do is be more like me and be less like you. Can you see that you're smothering me? Holding too tightly, afraid to lose control. 'Cause everything that you thought I would be is falling apart right in front of you. Just got me on the go. Every step that I take is another mistake to you.
You see the Manitou or the Manitou Islands out there in the distance? That's a preview. Now, hang on. I'm gonna do another one. If I can find it. Sorry, my technological skills are not as great as I thought they were. Here we go. Next one. Going to go back here for just a moment. This one will be more familiar to everyone. An afternoon at the waterfront, 2021. Our downtown heading for the waterfront. That's the site of the new North Bay Canada place. This was taken on April 5th. All right. And one last one. Jamie, I'm getting to it. Here we go.
We all have that one place that no matter where you are or how long you've been gone, you can always come back and call home. For me, that's North Bay, my home.
This isn't the waterfront. Wait a minute. It's coming. There we go. Okay, I'm not gonna stop share. Hang on. So Jamie, I think I made you co-host. I gotta find you now. Where are you? Are you on, Jamie? You got your,
Yeah, I'll just check
Okay.
with you again.
all right, so now, sorry about that. I thought that it would be interesting to try and imagine where is this beautiful place? You know, we all talk about what we think could be better, but sometimes we're missing out what we already have, right? Yes,
Yes.
Amy?
Yes, very, very refreshing. See that, and a bit of an exercise for me. I've been retired for 10 years now. And to go back and you asked me to speak on the waterfront, and my heavens, you know, that's a lot of years. And I found at 3 o'clock in the morning, I remembered a lot of things better than I did during the day. But I thought it would be interesting, and thank you for the nice words. I must commend though your group of the Heritage Gardeners are the essence of what we can design and develop places like the waterfront, but they won't survive without the volunteer base and people that really care about them. You'll see a lot of places that are developed beautifully, and then there's no money to maintain them, or politicians sometimes will not provide what's necessary to maintain a living classroom like this. So, but if I go back to, and many of you will remember this, I spent a lot of time on the government dock as a kid, always fishing and renting poles from Derry Mosley Williams down at the waterfront. At that time, we called it the government dock, and Bruce Goulet, of course, called it the Golden Mile. And beautiful part of North Bay, but it wasn't connected. Lee Park and the sewage treatment plant, it stopped there. And where the marina is today, that was the extent of the waterfront per se. Now, what happened was the Chamber of Commerce and the Marathon Realty got together and thought, we have to bring people back down to the waterfront. Let's at least get them down here. And the biggest problem then was we used to call it Hobo Valley. And there is, and for 30, 40, 50 years, that's where a lot of people would have their campfires and do various things down there. And a lot of people were afraid to even go down there. So with the chamber, what we did was, along with them, was extend the boardwalk from the government dock. So when you were going down to the dock, you weren't being run over by people getting to the double boat ramps that were on the left-hand side where the marina is today. So the whole thing was to get people down there. There was an old marina building, which is still there today. We have put washrooms in. Eureka, people finally had washrooms down at the waterfront. And then the other thing we did, which was kind of interesting, was I made sure we put a pathway for people from the government dock up to Gorman Street. And what we did is we went right through all these fire pits and the places where people used to congregate and do various things. So it took a while to keep those pathways clear because they fought back, but we got people down there anyway. Now, this got people down there and people interested, and council in its wisdom, and we're talking guys like Bruce Goulet and Jack Burrows and even Stan Lowler later on, wanted to see get a master plan done for the waterfront and how we could develop it. Now, the big thing there was we wanted to buy some land from the railroad at that time, and they wouldn't sell. And their property went right down to the waterfront. So even that picture you have there now, where the marina is, that's pretty much where the beach ended. And then there was a big slope down from the railway, and it was just cinders and that sort of thing.
Was this piece here, Jamie? This wasn't here before, right? Was this piece here?
No, absolutely not. All that is landfill. So what happened was when we got Moore George, and these are fellow landscape architects firm, like we didn't do this alone. We got together and they ended up doing a design for the waterfront. Council approved it, and now we had something that people could dream on, and council had something that they can put their dollars into, as well as we were very, very fortunate. When we had the plan done, we had Jean Blais in the federal, and we had Mike Harris. And we were very fortunate, and previous director Marie Shave and councillor Don King, and there was Jack Burrows as well, I think was the mayor at that time. They managed over a 4-day period to get money from the government before they went to their elections. And with Blais, it was over $1 million. We developed the marina. Now the marina, we didn't have to have a lot of funds from the municipality because Small Craft Harbors owned all the marinas at that time. And what they were doing was improving our double boat ramp actually, and brought it to the design of the architects. So people thought we'd end up with a 70-slip marina with 14-foot boats for fishing. Once we opened the marina and 75 docks, they were filled up with these big boats, like the big cruisers, the 25, 30 footers. We couldn't believe it. And so there was a real need to expand the marina. So that was a real plus. Then with the Moore George as well, and it was Rick Moore who said, if the railway won't sell us the property, we'll go around. And so we got permission to get out into the water as long as we made fish habitat. Back then, it wasn't as difficult as it is today. And they used the blasted rock from the Sage underground complex. That was just stockpiled along the escarpment. And so that's what built the breakwall and the landfill area. So now you ended up with a linkage and Memorial Drive. Who'd have thought we'd have a roadway for the park? But that was so important, is to have Memorial Drive go right through there, and then with the pathways and that sort of thing. So we brought people down. And we received more money as time went on because we had the plan. And when the green parts of the waterfront were developed, the 50-some flower bed or shrub beds down there, they were designed to reflect the islands that you see in the distance. So they were free-form design, and they were filled with perennials and annuals and shrubs and all kinds of things. And they were mulched up. And I have my own comments on that. But what happened was, now we have all this. How do we maintain it? And it only took 1 or 2 years to see the weeds coming through. We had only summer students that we could put into the beds during the summer months. And a lot of perennials looked like weeds. And so we lost a lot of plant material during that time. And so it came to a point, and I've said this before, is that we have to shrub up some of these, we have to sod some of these beds because we can't maintain them or keep up to them. And that's when I met Harriet Madigan and Living Fit. I think there was about 23 people at the time. And we discussed adopting a bed and that sort of thing. And the most difficult part of this was that we have a union and we can't take jobs away from union people. And so they were very skeptical about us having volunteers doing their work, so to speak. And we had to be tiptoe through that. And they were quite generous. They pretty much said, tell us what we need to hear. And so to get over that, the volunteer thing. And the other thing was in our favor was I had the staff every Friday, whether you drove a truck or a backhoe or whatever, a tractor, you had to go down to the waterfront and weed Friday afternoon. And that really opened up some eyes. So when we negotiated having people adopt beds down there, they were pretty happy to see what we were doing. And the smart part about this, and this is where Mike Burke came involved, and Tim Sheffield, wasn't just me, all these people were saying, why don't we make a recreation program out of it? So it's not volunteers, it's an actual recreation program. And that helped us in that we not only had volunteers weeding, but now we had a reason to educate people and do this whole thing with plant material. And we had lunches and various things going on right at the very beginning. And some of you were there for that. So it really, and looking at those pictures, it blossomed from there. And people took ownership of the waterfront. So having it maintained to the—
Jamie, can
Yes?
you, I'm going to mute everyone, and would you just unmute yourself, please? Okay, just because there's some background interruption. Can you unmute again? Thank you.
Yes. For me, you mean? Okay.
Okay.
So I wanted to, and hopefully I'm not too boring, I wanted to make sure you knew some key parts of what made this thing work. And 20-some years, 21 years later, it still looks fantastic down there, and it's being looked after. And the city was behind this. We put budgets together, so they receive support from the staff, and they receive dollars for materials and whatever help we could give them. And I'm really happy to see that has continued. And of course, the Heritage Gardener program is a force to be reckoned with. If you're a politician, you have to tread softly with regards to how you treat the waterfront, and please don't try to take one flower away or you'll hear about it. No uncertain terms, and it can be clandestine, but you will hear about it.
I remember a counselor, Jamie, way back in 2015 saying, do you think we could cut that Heritage Gardener program? Do you think there's anything we can cut out of there? And I was told that a staff member said, don't even think about it.
Yeah.
It's the goodwill. It's not just the planting, it's the planting of the seeds of goodwill and neighborhood kindness to the environment and creating conversations, all the things that happen when you create your place of beauty.
And so I'll continue on. With Harriet and with Wanda Wallace and Bonnie Cappadocia, they were all part of the nucleus that brainstormed, how is this going to work? And I think at the time too, having teams and interesting names for the teams like that's a lot of neat cheerleader stuff going on, you know. So bottom line is the best, that this is North Bay's first link was getting from 9th Avenue to Memorial Drive, you know, down to Ferris, getting that Memorial Drive through there and this beautiful waterfront. And as you drive by, you're actually refreshed. That too is a recreation. So even people driving up and down, it's a parkway. So as a result of that too, other things blossomed down there. And one of them was, it was during, I think, the 100 Years of Rail, and Stan Lowler was involved, and that was his platform. And he was really pushing for helping Rod Johnson with regards to a mini train down there. Now, Rod asked me if we could fly together to San Francisco for a weekend. We left Friday. Saturday, we're touring around San Francisco, looking at all these little parks with mini trains, and they all had carousels. And he wanted me to see what these things looked like and understand the gauge of the track and what's required, blah, blah, blah. And then seeing the people enjoy them. And then we got back on a plane on Sunday. And within a month or two, we ended up laying the first track with volunteers that were retired railroaders, and they were my age. They were in their 70s and plus. And there was about 15 of them. Colin Vesna was a real spark there. They would meet and they were excited. Their wives were wondering where they were after, because they were down there 7 days a week working on these little mini trains. And then this whole carousel thing blossomed too. So you realize how far that's expanded. And then you got the Rotary Club with a shelter, and then there was the band shell and the ACT, the Association of Canadian Travelers. They did the playground down there, and their little Canada Day gazebo. So it went on from there. The Chief Commander too. We were running it as a department, and I don't think we ran it very well financially. Everything else looked good, but we managed to get that over to private enterprise. So we saved another gem down there. So, and from there, the other part of the waterfront was getting so busy that we had to look at a bike path for down there. So going to council, it was very interesting. It was Dr. Keach, who was chairman of Parks and Recreation at that time, and he supported us. There was a few other councillors on that committee that didn't think bicycle paths were even necessary. And so thank God we managed to get the pathway started, and the dream was always from Canadore to Callender. And then hopefully we could go up from the lake to the escarpment. So now there is link number 2 on a recreational basis. And we got that started, lots of support. And when Bill Beckett was involved with the Conservation Authority in Chippewa Creek, when he was there developing the flood erosion controls, we had a little conversation, and I said, do you have to maintain these erosion areas? Do you have to get equipment down there? And he says, yes, we do. And I said, can we do a track that is, and this is why up by the Davidi Club, you'll wonder why there's a trail on one side, a little bit of grass in between it, and the trail on the other side. That was to maintain the wink, wink, the flood control measure, but at the same time, it was the beginning of the pathway. So we ended up doing that with the Conservation Authority. Arnie Schmidt was involved with them quite heavily, and he's still cycling today. So that was another very important linkage to the waterfront. And then towards the end of my term, if you will, of work, the next thing was how can we link the downtown to the waterfront? We either go over the tracks or under the tracks. And Steve Siadovic he was the director of planning. He really got behind this. And we did a brainstorming session it was the Empire Hotel at the time. And we managed to send to the CN people something that they could swallow. And that was to shrink that whole shunting yard that was part of the North Bay Center, shrink it down to 2 tracks. We tried to get it to 1, but we shrunk it to 2 tracks, and they went for it so we could tunnel under and link up. So that is the third huge link that links the downtown and the core of the whole city to the waterfront. So
That was a big one, Jamie. That was, we kept trying, Community Waterfront Friends kept supporting that. It was the only thing we needed to connect the downtown, the park, and the waterfront. And the government kept saying no, and then an election year happened, and we got yes.
It's amazing how that works, and you realize that the teams of people that just put their nose down and weren't discouraged. And it can be very discouraging with dealing with fundraising and trying to get people to see the light, if you will. So it's people like yourself and your groups that really assist the waterfront area, but the whole city. And then you mentioned Communities in Bloom, and this if we didn't have the Heritage Gardeners down there, Communities in Bloom wouldn't have happened in the whole city. And if I go back to the time when I was fishing off the government dock at 12 years old or whatever, people didn't have shrub beds. People didn't have a lot of flower beds. They had vegetable gardens. They had the foundation planting, the old 40-foot cedar that they've never pruned in front of the house, that sort of thing. But after the waterfront started and Communities in Bloom, you drive around the city now, we can support landscape people now in North Bay. Before we couldn't do that, So it's amazing how things have blossomed throughout the city that way. So it's just fantastic. And look at the wealth of pictures. I remember when Jean Chrétien was here, and his wife, wherever she went, Mrs. Chrétien would always go out for a walk in the morning, wherever she was. And she said it's in the Nugget somewhere, she said, this is one of the most beautiful waterfronts I have ever been to. And that should be in our brochures with her, her signature underneath it, because I believe she was quoted, and maybe that could be found. But you talk about somebody that's a world traveler, if you will, Prime Minister's wife, to enjoy it that much. So kudos to all of you guys. I want to make sure. These are just some of the notes. I'm just going through them again. I think I've covered everything that I thought was important to say with regards to this development, and having been there as a child down at the waterfront, and it was, with me, it was primarily fishing off the dock and then swimming in that beautiful beach down there as well. It's fantastic. So, and it's kind of nice to be involved in some other projects since I've retired. And it's, well, thank God you're around, Harriet. That's all I can say. You're a real catalyst.
Well, thank you. Well, I think of myself as a seed planter. I just throw out an idea and people jump on board, it seems, because when it comes to beautification, everyone loves something beautiful. And it's a place, I know our group uses the waterfront a lot, right, through every season. and the eco path and all those wonderful spaces that Parks and Leisure help to create. Unfortunately, it seems that Parks and Leisure are the ones that get hit the most when budget time comes, unfortunately.
That's why you had to stay under the radar.
Yes, yeah. So should we open the questions, Jamie, or is it
Oh,
something?
absolutely.
Can you unmute if you have any questions, please? And I'm going to bring up the gallery for now. Let's see if I can get, I'm going to get at the stop share. Okay. All right, everybody. Any questions? Debbie?
Jamie, are you aware of any plans to repair and reconstruct King's Landing, the pier? It's not in very good shape, and I realize that's pretty costly venture, but are you aware of anything?
What I was aware of before I left there, number one was Small Craft Harbors gave us some dollars to repair the dock. And then they did this all throughout Canada, and they backed away from it because maintenance was so costly, and they wanted municipalities to take over their own docks. So with those dollars, we got, I think, at least another 25 years out of that dock system. There's another design now for the Chief Commanded 2 to be able to actually dock along the breakwater area. I can't explain the design, but so the government dock, or King's Landing as it's called now, would become more of a spit, just like the one in Toronto. What's it called? Just off the beaches area. It's just
can you explain what a spit is, Jamie?
If you have a bad cold, no. What it is, it's a landfill out into the water, and it's made of natural, stone and things like that. And a lot of these spits are there to deflect waves and that sort of thing. And this is an integral part of the marina, so they need that protection. But I could see it without the wood and the creosoted timbers there, but just being landfill again, and with the large armor stone around it to protect the marina, but at the same time it should be a destination for walkers or people with their bicycles and things like that. People love to get out to the water and look at the views across the lake and that sort of thing. So if they can do that safely, and it's a lot more economical to do that than to build a concrete structure and try to fight those waves. It's just throwing money against the wall, really. So that's what I think is going to happen, and I'm not sure where it is because I haven't been there for a decade. So
I think there were 3 proposals, and the most expensive one is the one I thought should happen, and that included the spit. And it was a $13 million project at the time. And I think that's the one, I'm not sure, but I think that's the one the city is going to work toward. I'm not positive. It's a concept right now.
yes.
But,
They were trying to get some more commercial things down there that would be compatible as well. I will say this, they cannot not do something with that government dock because it's an integral part of the marina. It's protecting the marina. So it's a break wall right now. And I think that has to be an integral part of the whatever concept 1, 2, or 3.
yeah, and if you've been to Europe, and you've been, especially Italy, I think it's all over Europe, you see those spits all over the place, eh, Jamie? You see
Yes.
a break wall to protect the villages and things like that. I think that's part of where that idea came from. There's some questions here. Is there a specific spot, I'm assuming the government dock, where shipping to early settlers took place? the story of how North Bay was named is related to this, and it might be interested to have historical signage. I don't know.
The person to talk to there would be Pete Hanley, who knows everything about that. And we teamed up with his people. And, you know, you see those plaques all around the city with the stories. They even have one for the Manitou Islands. He would be the person probably to talk to in that regard. I believe it was railway related. And I know the ONR actually had barges and things like that. If you remember the Chief Commando 1, there was always an ONR barge there that they used as well. And there were some lumbering things going on. So I think that's a good story that should be told, and it would be nice if it was on a plaque down there.
Yes, yeah.
Good question.
Any other questions? Dorothy?
It isn't really a question, but I just wanted to say thank you, Jamie, for the history. I've known Harriet for, I think, more than 25 years, and I thought I knew everything about the waterfront. But I didn't, and it's great to be reminded just how beautiful it is and how lucky we are that you people all went through that and persevered.
And I think part of it too is everything takes time. Something people don't, you know, for example, Community Waterfront Friends came together. Jamie, you were supporting us then. And it took 3 whole years for a site-specific risk assessment to figure out what to do with those rail lines, right, Jamie?
That's right.
And that's 3 years that we tried to keep the dream alive. And it was very difficult. And that's how we birthed the tree nursery along the eco path.
That's right.
Jamie and Bill Beckett and I walked the eco path at the time that existed. And on either side, you wouldn't be aware of this, but on either side, the North Bay Mattawa Conservation owned one property, the city owned another, and that's how it went all along that pathway. And we got together and it's sort of all connected, you know. The tree nursery happened because, well, we wanted trees for the waterfront, but the other piece of that was we were stalled with the site-specific risk assessment. We wanted to keep the idea of community waterfront park alive. So we started a tree nursery. And now that tree nursery has existed since 2004, I think, 2006, somewhere in there. And many of those trees were planted at the waterfront along the fence line of the railroad. So really grassroots kind of stuff and community. That's why I really love North Bay. It's how the community comes together to make these things happen. Just amazing. Sorry, I got all excited there for a moment, Jamie.
No kidding.
I'd just like to make a comment. I was a heritage gardener for 15 years, and I can truly say that the people of North Bay do appreciate the water. I would say that just about every time I was down there, somebody would stop and say, thank you for the work that you're doing. And it made you, feel really proud to be part of it. So.
And that's why we have the slogan is community spirit in full bloom. And I think that's so fitting, but I think it should be for the whole of North Bay, community spirit in full bloom. A lot of the initiatives, I don't know if you feel that way, Jamie, but a lot of the initiatives that have happened because of the community. The community brings them forward and then tries to get the support of the municipality. And but not always. There's a lot of collaboration that goes on behind the scenes that people don't see. It's good to know the history because there's so much that has to happen between A and B. Nothing happens overnight.
That's right. And a lot of it is word of mouth though, with the heritage gardeners as well. You're very proud of what you do and you're not afraid to tell people about it and even get people to join with you like that. It's used in, I used it a lot of times with the Ontario Parks Association. If I had to speak on something, I would use that example of how other people can get volunteers in their park, but under the radar as a recreation program. and lo and behold, you know, you end
And
up
that's
with,
why the gardens were award winning, because Jamie took that to the Ontario Parks Association and we received an award for that initiative, right?
yeah, I don't even think they had to think twice when they looked at what you did and what
You're
was
frozen,
going on
Jamie.
there. You won that award hands down. Yeah. You met some of the characters there too at Communities in Bloom from the Ontario Parks Association, I'm sure. Some of the judges.
Yeah. Any other questions? Well, Jamie, I want to say thank you so much for coming on board. I've long admired, I can't, like I said, I cannot walk on that pathway or the waterfront and other beautiful spaces in our community without thinking about parks and leisure and how important it is to, you know, how critical it is to living here and the quality of our life. So a huge thank you to you. And I know you're enjoying retirement, but I love that you still you dabble on a volunteer basis in many different ways. And so the latest dabbling is North Bay Canada Place. Jamie sits on that committee and it's moving slowly right now because of COVID. And, you know, it's not essential construction, so that's going to be delayed a little bit. But the good news is it will actually happen. And we'll have a location right across from the underpass, that the pedestrian underpass, that is another area for people to gather. And I'm really looking forward to that. So thank you, Jamie. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
We'll have to
Thank
have
you
you
very
back.
much. I must say that when you say you walk along the waterfront, you might think of me, but when I walk or drive and things like that around the city, I think of all the people that made my job a lot easier. I'm telling you. So I think of those people as well. And of course, you're there. And many of the ones that I've mentioned here, a lot of people didn't know about a Dr. Teach, you know, and how supportive he was and things like that. So it's nice. I get a chance to say that out loud, you know. So, but I think of all you guys. And at I remember one luncheon, I said, with your name tags, you shouldn't wear them on your front. You should put them on your behinds, because that's what people see when they're down there. And or Heritage Gardens, you know how they have sweatpants with the things on the back. That would be so cute. But I think one lady said, how about we just make the t-shirts longer and we can put it at the bottom of the t-shirt, Heritage Gardeners, and a lot of people will know who you are. I don't recognize faces.
Not everybody here is our Heritage Gardeners, but maybe
Oh,
they're.
is that right? They want to be now.
Yeah.
I don't recognize the faces. I recognize something else. And so when I drive by.
I'm also thinking about other places in our community that we take for granted, like the Shaney Falls and Nipissing Naturalist Club. They do a lot of maintenance around town in natural areas. The Laurier Woods, you know,
Yes.
that was Jamie, you were part of that too. And that had to go to council and be supported. And it took the community to come together to make that happen. So lots of great things.
Yeah, it's been a real good exercise for me. I haven't thought about, 30, 40 years like this. And it's amazing where we've come. So
Yeah,
thanks for
Thank
doing
you.
that.
thank you. So anybody interested in Tai Chi, you can call, Jamie's an instructor. I'm mine too.
Actually,
Tai
we'll be putting out a notice, once we can get back outside again. We go to calendar now because of the covered rink, so it's weatherproof. So we might be there on Tuesdays and Fridays at 10 o'clock, but once COVID gives us the okay, I think we're going to start doing that again. So it'll all be outside and, distance with the mask and that sort of thing, so.
Jamie,
Anyway.
what's the fee? Is there a fee schedule for that now?
No,
It's free?
yes, once we go inside, then we have a fee schedule, and we can't, I can't say if we're going to start a beginner class again or when that would be. It's better if you know a little bit of Tai Chi to attend these, but beginners, we're looking at trying to put a class together for that, and that would be announced as well.
Okay. Thanks, Jamie. So
You're
I'm
welcome.
gonna
Thanks,
stop.
everyone. Good questions, good comments.